one of the things that made our relationship so strong is that we would rely on each other when we struggled. So, but when Steve was the one struggling, and therefore I was having struggles as well, I had to be cautious in how much I shared with him, because I didn't want him to feel that I was resentful or that he was a burden in any way. And so I was as honest as I could be without making him feel worse about a situation that he couldn't control. So I relied on a group of girlfriends who knew Steve when he was healthy and were right there in the midst of all of it with us. And so if I had a bad day, I knew I could talk to them, and they would know, as girlfriends magically do, when it was just venting time or problem-solving time, you know. So it was good just to have that strong group of friends who I could rely on. I have an aunt who at the time had 2 teenagers at home, and she was able to leave her house a lot to come and stay with us a week or so at a time. And so having my aunt, who'd known me since I was born, was a huge help as well, because I didn't even need to tell her that it was too much. She would look at me and know and swoop in and make things better as much as she could, from a domestic side. Steve and I did not talk very often about what life would be like without him. That was probably the hardest conversation for him to have. And I didn't want to have that conversation, but at the same time I wanted to make sure I was planning and preparing for what he would want me to do. So those were probably the most cautious conversations we would have. And if I were to go back, I just don't know how much I would change that. Partly because I think the kids and I have done okay without sort of having his plan. He was more spontaneous than I was. I think the planner in me wants to know what everything's going to happen, and he was willing to, kind of take each day as it comes. He did talk about he planned his memorial service, and I was not a part of that. We are active in our church, and so our minister would come and visit pretty often, and our music director, Steve, had been a member of the choir before his voice gave out. He couldn't reliably sing well. So he had planned the hymns to sing and the scripture and who would speak. And so that, I think that was his way of relieving a burden for me as well.